Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of the Create Smarter podcast. I'm Marisa and I'm here with Kyle and Phil today.
Hello.
And we are here to talk about how they are promoting the LA28 Olympics. So they have been running this project called Every A Tells a Story. And so basically in the logo, the LA28 logo, it's stacked as LA and then 28 beneath it. The A is interchangeable and they're having other people design A's. When I say other people, I mean athletes, activists, celebrities, you name it. It's a bunch of random people. And basically they're all designing their own A's. And then each design is connected to a film about that person. I just thought it was a very cool way to create content, and I wanted to hear what your initial thoughts were when you heard about the project.
I love the project. When you sent it to me, I really, really like it, and I think it's a really good example of a couple of things. It's a really good example of like personalizing different elements of a big story, like chunking down a big story into little individual solo stories. So it's something I think that when we talk to clients sometimes about how to take a really big concept and chunk it down to different areas of a school or different areas of a nonprofit, I think it's a really good example of doing that. The other thing that blows my mind is not only are we 4 years away from the Olympics and they're already doing this heavy promotion, the LA Olympics, they started this promotion 4 years ago, because I watched one of the videos and I think it was Billie Eilish was like, I don't know where I'll be in 8 years, and I was like, Doesn't she know the Olympics are in 4? And you're like, no, they started this in 2020, which is crazy. So really long-term, long view, smart. It's visually really, really cool too.
You know what's funny? The first thing that struck me was like in the marketing room, he's like, man, they're really playing with their logo. Like, I can't believe they're letting a bunch of people go out there. But I think it signals like that change in time that we're going through, where it's no longer like a mono culture. Like, everyone has their little niche audience, and like that audience could be huge. And like back to what we talked to our clients, like use your like guest is audience. That's kind of the example right now that's perfect to say like, hey, create your own logo. We're cool with it. We're the Olympics. People are going to be aware of us. We're fine. No one's going to be surprised. Oh, God, the Olympics are on. It's going to happen. Go ahead and go out to your, that can make connections, especially because they really are connected to the city. Like, you think about Paris, and it was more like, oh, cool, Paris, France, and like the ways that like the Olympics tries to be specific to the city. LA is a very arts and like culture and music. A lot of American culture comes from that one specific city. So the fact that they're letting play with their logo, make it a little more artistic, makes a lot of sense. But at first when I saw it, I was like, wow, they really don't care about their brand.
Fast and loose with but I think it works. And what's interesting is like, I know a lot more about LA than I do about Paris. I don't know that much about LA, but I do know it's a super, super diverse place. In terms of, it's a huge city, obviously, geographically, in terms of what's contained there, in terms of the types of people who live there. So this concept works really well for a city like LA, where it's not just one thing, right? But what's interesting, I do wonder internationally, do people think of LA and just be like, Hollywood actors, right? Like, is that all that LA is to international? Similar to Paris.
Global elite.
We think about like Paris and the view is like City of Love, Eiffel Tower. There's obviously a lot more to it. You get a taste of that like during the opening ceremonies, and that's the point of the Olympics for these host cities, is to show off their city in a way beyond just what the big perception is. And this is a really cool first step towards that for LA.
And I like how, we always talk about the second level networks and getting to other people beyond your audience. The Olympics is athletes, right? So it's, obviously an athletic event. But they're not just involving athletes in this project. It's not just, we'll ask a bunch of Olympians to design an A. It's people that are relevant in LA. It's people that are relevant in like different spaces. To your point, everybody has those niche audiences. Someone might not know who this track star is, but somebody might know who Billie Eilish is, or like Snoop Dogg has his own one. And obviously after the Paris Olympics, everybody's talking about Snoop Dogg. So I think it's cool that they're not just including athletes in it, and they're including kind of everybody.
Those second level networks are critical too, right? And like the Olympics are like ubiquitous, right? Everyone knows they're happening, but also it's, building interest and excitement in it between Olympics is a hard thing to do, right? Because it's like these 2 weeks, in the summer, and then 2 years later in the winter, and then 2 years later in the summer. It's hard to build that excitement in between. So having big name people help kind of keep that excitement up and keep people thinking about it you're not going to be able to do it just from like the Olympics accounts. The Olympics are going to be able to promote the Olympics with the games. Going to those second level networks and having other people talk about it is a good way to stay in front of people in between.
And it's funny. We talk a lot about it when it comes to events and conferences, where an event and conference happens two days out of a year. So what are you doing for the 363, 362 rest of those days? And that's where you how do you make it live on? I think the Olympics is doing an amazing job, especially because you're like, why are you promoting this 8 years before? It's, hey, we got to sort of stay there. We got to kind of justify what we're doing as the Olympics, why it costs so much and all that. But yeah, we're going to go into these little tertiary markets and really continue to build it up for audiences that don't care. I mean, we're living in the Taylor Swift NFL world. You can sit there and think the exact same. How is Taylor Swift bringing eyeballs to the NFL? The NFL is the greatest streaming platform. Every one of them dominates. If they stream it, everyone's watching it. But Taylor Swift brought a ton of eyeballs, as much as Jake, one of our coworkers, hates her on TV. It's the same thing here. You bring in an Anderson .Paak, who isn't an athlete. He's kind of more in a different type of music space and stuff like that. The audience is going to be like, oh, wow, he's talking about the Olympics. There must be something a little bit more because I can trust him. So why is he being a part of this brand or being a part of this creative effort?
And I think the bigger thing too is if you think about, again, the point of the Olympics for the host city. Yeah, it's to host the game and the dollars of the the tourism dollars that come in directly from that. But the bigger thing is to basically run a marketing campaign for a city, right? Mm-hmm. And that's not just going to happen in those 2 weeks. It's going to happen leading up to it, during, and after. And LA wants to promote a vision to the world of what LA is, and the best way to do that is to take these representatives of LA and put them out in the forefront. I think it's awesome, and I think it's a really brilliant way to personalize a city that's really big and impersonal for people who have never been there, right? Or don't know that
they
much
only
about
see it. They see it from a very specific way. I mean, I'm waiting for the Vanderpump Rules A. I can't wait to see that. I want to see what they do with it. Are they going to include what's his name? Are they bringing in the scumbag? I want to know.
There's going to be a LeBron A, right? He's an LA guy, isn't he?
And then a Bronny A.
A Bronny A, yeah.
There's already over 42 different designs, and we are still 4 years out from the Olympics, which is crazy to me.
Well, that's what's crazy. 4 years is such a long time. You talk about, will there be a LeBron A? He's not going to play, I don't think.
He's already for his legacy is the biggest question.
Well, but he just won a gold in the 2024 games. He won't even be 2028. He's not even going to be on the team. So it is interesting. The long game is it's a really hard thing to do, to maintain that momentum. And right now they have some, but what will it look like in 2 years? It's really interesting, but I do think it's important to remember. We always talk about, objective and audience in the conversations we have with clients. Again, the objective of the Olympics is, for the host city, is to promote that city, to the world. And I think that this is a really good way to do that. And they're keeping their eye on the ball with that, which is awesome. It's really cool. And the videos are good.
Yeah,
they're
exactly.
short and to the point too, right? They're easy to watch.
Yeah,
and they're fun
very
to watch.
digestible. It's not super lengthy. It's home videos and pictures and some drone footage of LA, and then boom, it's done. And it's very concise and to the point, like you were saying. I thought it was just so interesting. I keep going back to the idea that it's a long play. I was telling Kyle, I didn't hear about this until some girl on Instagram made a reel about it or a TikTok about it and posted about it. And then I was like, what is this? Seems kind of cool. I'm like, is this true? Then I had to look it up. So it's they kind of capitalized on the fact that for this year, the Olympics was everywhere. I feel like all of my feed was just Olympics content constantly. So that now would be a good time to talk about it, but why haven't I heard about it before, and why did it take 4 years for it to come up in my feed?
That is a good point. That's the one element of this that I do think, and maybe it's just because there is still such a long time. They have all this great stuff built up, and maybe they're just kind of holding on, and they're going to do a little more of a concentrated push. I'm just now starting to see it, and even still, it's not everywhere in your face yet, but I'm sure I'm sure there's a rollout plan, and you're gonna only hear more and more about it. We still have another Olympics games to get to before we even start promoting LA, because there's a winter one in between. So I'll be very interested to see how they ramp it up. In the 2 years, after the winter games of whatever 2026.
I imagine they're using SEO and they're waiting on the search and stuff like that. Especially if I'm LA, I wanted to have 40 amazing videos, really cool creators. People know, hey, I was pumped about the Olympics. Where's the next one coming? And then oh wait, they're already starting to talk about this.
Right.
That's kind of you could see why. Because at first when I saw it, I'm like, man, that's a really sick A, but where am I going to post this if I'm the celebrity? How do I put this out to my audience? But like, I was like, oh, wait, it can be more of like, yeah, it is somewhat at the end of the day, like LA branding, like add the A, but I want you being on this website, start to learn a little bit more. And I'm sure the athletes, all the organizations around it love it because they're still kind of keeping that top of mind is going to be important, pouring money into these programs like women's rugby that needs all that stuff. Like you can see why this is all happening and why it actually does make sense.
It will be cool to see like some of these, it would be cool to see some of the people who got, you know, some celebrity status in this Olympics. You know, you mentioned women's rugby. There's Alona Mayer. Alona Mayer got all this celebrity status this year, and you saw after the games when they won a medal that, you know, people are donating money to like support their program in a more meaningful way. And it's like, how can someone, you know, like the women's rugby team or the players there who gained some celebrity status capitalize on that and carry it through in a way that maybe will make them more successful, right? And help them train better and have more resources because, you know, for every Simone Biles who has whatever resource she needs, because she's, you know, the greatest Olympic athlete of all time, there's someone who's representing, you know, their country really, really effectively, but they don't have the resources and they're still working a full-time job, right? So it is interesting to see how the athletes will leverage it as well.
And you had mentioned, you know, maybe the creators are holding on to all this content and then going to put it out later. I hadn't even thought about that, but that kind of goes back to our concept of like what we preach all the time of shoot once and then you have multiple pieces of content. Like they're holding on to it. They probably got all of this content done in a very timely manner. Mm-hmm. I was like, oh, how are they're going to keep doing this for 4 more years? And I'm sure they're not completely done filming everything because, you know, I'm sure more people want to be involved and everything like that. But they're probably holding on to it because they shot it effectively and they did exactly what we talk about all the time.
Yeah.
I would say the thing that surprises me the most about them holding on to it so long is how fast culture changes.
I know.
Mm-hmm.
Man, that A might be cool 4 years ago, but like in 2 years, are people going to be like, oh, yeah, that's a cool style? Like a lot of it right now looks very modern, very demure, whatever. It looks good. However, you could see like in 4 years from now, is that like what's our art style going to change because of how fast everything kind of moves with this stuff.
Not to mention the people they focus on.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
Ooh, they could get
in this
canceled.
day and age, you don't know. It's a kind of a risk, right? And so, like, whoever is, you know, you pick a specific person, not that she's going to do anything wrong, but like Billie Eilish, you know, I forgot that 4 years ago, has she been on the scene that long? Is she still going to be someone people care about in 4 years?
Right.
Like, she could be a bad guy.
You could be the bad guy. Things move so fast that, like, also people they're going to want as part of their marketing campaign, we don't even know who they are yet. They might still be in high school, you know what I mean? Like,
but to that point, it's probably why there's 42 already, why they're probably going to continue doing this is because like, hey, let's make sure we're kind of every audience. We're not just going to put all our money on the Taylor Swift randomly dating one of our athletes. Like we're going to go all like, let's get everyone in here.
Travis Kelce might be in the games, right? Isn't there going to be
football?
Like football, yeah.
You might have Kelce in the games. Therefore, you might have Swift in the games.
You could have Swift in the games.
Sure.
Should we take the bet now? Will they still be dating in 2028?
I don't think they will.
Should
4
Taylor
kids.
Swift make an A?
Should she make an A?
In
Probably.
honor, a red A. I know she likes red.
That's true.
In honor of Travis Kelce.
She's going to have the Scarlet A. Oh, that's
Yikes.
not good.
Anyway.
Anyway, I think on the flip side of this, though, we're talking about, you know, athletes or people that might not be relevant anymore. There are people that are going to become relevant that, you know, they still have another 4 years to capitalize on that. Even, you know, Olympians that got more airtime this Olympics and they're like, oh, this person really kind of blew up, like Alona Mayer. After the Olympics, they can, you know, start to focus on these people. The interesting thing is going to be how many people can they actually tie back to LA? Because from the perspective that I see it, I think everybody has to have a tie to the city to kind of be involved.
Right.
So it can't just be like, you know, a bunch of random
We got the
people.
Kardashians, so we have like at least 8 to 20.
It can't
checks
be,
off a lot.
you know, Taylor Swift is from Nashville, right? It's kind of disingenuous if she's part of this campaign. I know we're just making
Yeah, but
stuff up.
it doesn't even, I wonder what their conditions are because it's like, you know, probably not everybody has to be from LA, but, you know, I'm
Some
sure
tie,
Taylor Swift
right.
has spent a lot of time in LA. I don't know,
right,
but,
yeah.
you know, I'm sure there's different meanings for a bunch of different people. So I think, I wonder what their conditions are for like who they include.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting too that I feel like the Olympics were like a different kind of cultural phenomenon this year than maybe they had been in a while. So there's probably some people who are like looking at it as an opportunity, like, let me jump on that and get a little bit of a, you know, tie myself and my personal brand to the Olympics. So like there's more, I think, cachet with it, as like a celebrity status than maybe there was, because people are seeing like, oh, people actually kind of cared about it. I don't know. It felt different this time, maybe just because the last Summer Games was, fresh out of COVID and there were no fans there. But these games felt different. So that'll probably be a big opportunity for LA to be like, that was huge, come be a part of it. It's going to be a draw for people to want to market it as well, I think.
I love and just a little sidetrack, but I love the fact that they were focused on some of the Paralympic athletes. Like when we were watching in the office, like we were engrossed. Like you were not here that week, but like the group in the bullpen was sitting there like, wow. Like
it was incredible.
All these things. We're like, this is so cool. But like, because it's the Paralympics, they didn't have as much storytelling that they were doing in the regular ones. And even the gold zone was a little funky and whatnot. But I love that LA's kind of focus on that, like bringing in those athletes telling their stories. Because I was watching the Paralympics, I'm like, how does this work? Like, if we thought the regular athletes that do like the more unique sports don't get any like funding, like the para athletes, like how are you learning you are good at this? And then like getting into those things where it's just so fascinating.
It is interesting too. It's like, they should promote the Paralympics more, because it's not like people aren't watching the Olympics because they're huge swimming fans. They're watching the Olympics because it's the Olympics. So like, you could get the interest in the Paralympics up the same way or a similar way that you get the Olympics if they pushed it the same way, right? It's like you tune in and like you become an expert in swimming over the course of the Olympics. Like most people are casual sports fans or casual people, and then over the course of watching it, you become, an expert. You could do the same thing with the para games too.
Blind soccer, we were losing our minds. It was so crazy. Then when Argentina finally beat Brazil in the shootouts, we were screaming.
And you had read all the backstories
oh my gosh,
about the rivalry. And that's the stuff, those stories are what make you care, right?
Right.
And so, yeah, I think it's a really great campaign. I think it's a really good example. Not everyone's the Olympics, but I think it's a really good example for folks of how to take a really big thing and personalize it and, extend the shelf life of it and chunk it out over a long time.
Loosen up once in a while on your brand guidelines. I have an understanding of why you're doing it, but this is an extremely creative and smart way to let others be a part of your brand and spread it to their audiences. And then think about the long term. How do you tell that story? How do you make your event go past the day that they're in this one conference room, and then continue to the community, continue connecting?
Yep.
Yeah, you guys, I couldn't have said it better myself. As a perfect wrap up. We will be back when we talk about the next Olympics. See you guys in 2 years, and then again in 4 years. We'll have to make a follow-up episode about how the LA28 Olympics branding did after those Olympics.
Set a reminder for 4 years to talk about the A's.
We should do a follow-up of which is the best Olympics, summer or winter. Some people have controversial opinions.
We could have a whole different segment on just Olympics podcast. But for now, I am Marisa. This is Kyle and Phil, and thank you for listening.